Hello, and welcome to the Pollinator Habitat How-To webinar series. We're excited to have you all join us this morning for an excellent lineup of speakers. We're very grateful that they would share their time with us this morning. Today we'll be covering the basics of native plant gardening, especially for those just getting started, and we'll be moving in very quick succession. And with that, I will turn it over to our first speaker, Camille.
Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about site assessment, site prep, and native plant selection. Luckily for you guys, I have 20 minutes, and so I'll try to be as concise as possible. But before I do, I'll just let you know a little bit about myself. I worked for the city of Fayetteville for 5 years. I worked for native restoration and management for most of this year, and then I just started my own design build uh, landscaping, gardening, native plant company in Northwest Arkansas. So I'm here to get natives into everyone's yards. So to begin, I will share my screen and turn off my video, and we will start. This is specifically on site prep essentials and native plant selection. I'm very grateful that Arkansas Monarch Conservation Partnership set this up today. Thank you, Leslie. Let's begin. So when I think about site prep, there are four essentials, right? It's the nuts and bolts of planting a native planting, or really any planting. So we're going to start today talking about site and soil preparation. Now, this changes obviously with every site, and I'm going to be trying to talk about things in a more overarching sense. And so that way you can kind of take what works for your site or for anywhere that we're thinking about natives. Essentially, there are kind of our two enemies when it comes to native plants, and that would be lawn and then invasive shrubs. So we have the removal of Bermuda grass, fescue, weeds galore, honeysuckle, bush honeysuckle, and other non-native shrubs that have been planted already. And there are different ways that people can address these issues. We try as much as possible to do non-chemical options. And so sod cutters work great for removing most grasses. They even can assist with removing Bermuda, but sometimes you need to go back in and dig out deeper when it does come to Bermuda. There's cardboard mulching, which people do all times of year to smother their weeds, to smother their lawn. There is just plain old-fashioned digging things out with a shovel, which often requires repeat methods. And then last but not least, there are chemical methods which experts in the field do use when it comes to invasives that uh, have no other means of removal. So essentially that's where we have to start. And if you're lucky and you already have garden beds that are mulched, that have been flower beds forever, then it's a lot easier. But if you do have a large site or a site that you're wanting to turn into natives, then the first thing is just how do we get rid of the Bermuda? How do we keep out the Bermuda? And that can be with barriers on your beds, using rock or metal edges, whatever you need to do to kind of create these boundaries between your garden bed and um, your grass or your woods. Um, so second, we need to think about soil quality, and we will go into that more. But what does the soil look like? Is it heavy in clay? Does it need moisture retention, etc.? So sunlight is the biggest, I think, one of the most important things to decide which plant to plant. Just assess your property. You can watch it. Like do a time clock and see, okay, how much light is there at 10 a.m.? How much light is there at noon? How much light is at 3 p.m.? And do that over the course of the year and try and measure the amount of sunlight that you get. The most important time, of course, is in the growing season. So between March and September, how much sun is your site getting? Where is your site facing? Is there with some variables like trees, you can get a lot of tree shade in July, August, and you maybe didn't account for that in March. So, and then I put to how much sunlight for each requirement. And I think that this is just good to know in the back of your head, like, oh, wow, this really gets a little bit of sun through the trees, maybe 3 hours, or morning sun. Um, Based on where it is on a house, that's okay, even for full shade. But that's something we need to measure. Secondly, we have soil conditions. And so soil conditions is really, really important. Does it drain? Is it heavy in clay? Is it red clay because you live in a subdivision? Has it been amended? What can you do if you have a poor draining site? There are natives that can take poor draining sites that can live in clay. There are natives that can live in mostly sand. It's out there. So you can, if you'd like, amend your soil, or you can just find the right plants that will thrive in your site. One really, really easy way that experts even use to identify their soil is you can do a soil in a jar test. And essentially you fill a jar like 30 to 50% with your soil and water. And then as some experts in the field use soap, dish soap, to kind of like bad words, make it more quick to test it, or you can just leave it for 24 hours. This is something that I highly recommend just to see what you've got, and go from there when it comes to amending your soils. And then related, we have moisture. Um, and so after a rain, how long is that water going to stand in your garden bed? Is it draining out? Is it free draining? Most plants prefer a well-draining soil, but not all of them. And so this is crucial for looking at your site and then using your site to be your guide for the plants that you choose.